Open source projects for fun and profit. This is Jeff Heaton. Let me tell you about how you too can be an open source author. Like just about everything in publishing, the barriers to entry have come crashing down in the areas of open source. For example, if somebody tells you that they are an author, what does that even mean? It might mean they just uploaded a PDF to self-publishing on Amazon. Heck, I've done that. If somebody tells you that they're an open source contributor, you might immediately think, oh, they're contributing some gigantic Apache project and are well received and well trusted. That could just mean that they've uploaded something to GitHub. So we're going to talk about that. What exactly is an open source project these days? There's really several levels of that I'll get to in a second. GitHub is great. GitHub gives you a way to take source code that you've written, projects that you've worked on, that otherwise would sit in your hard drive somewhere collecting dust until you accidentally delete them. Rather, you can take some of these projects that you've done, polish them up a little bit so that they're not an embarrassment, that's a good thing, and put them onto GitHub. Here you can see my GitHub. What's cool about this is this can become a very cool part of your resume. If you see, I have 1.1, basically 1,100 followers. And some of my repositories have quite a few stars. My Artificial Intelligence for Humans has 700. I've got a Incog project that has very, very similar. And I've also got my deep learning course, which has 560 stars. So this immediately shows you when you're looking at somebody's Git repository, okay, people are following them, they're interested in, and then there's people with a lot more followers than me, but this is the level to which I've gotten this. Here you show when people have contributed to their repository. So just looking at the amount of green there, when you're evaluating somebody's Git repository, that shows you how active they are. So here are the steps of progression. Code sitting on a hard drive. You've worked on some project, you own the code, it's just for you to learn something new, but it's sitting on your hard drive. And for me, that is going to last until the next time I reload my operating system. I might well lose it. Next, you take that code and you think, hey, somebody else might be interested in this. So you put it onto your GitHub repository. Congratulations, you are now an open source author. Now, putting it onto GitHub, that may or may not really do much for you. You probably want to have your GitHub repository linked into a few places, like on LinkedIn and other things, Twitter. I definitely do that. The next step, and my own progression through this, is I took some of the code that I published for the Society of Actuaries and conferences, and I put it onto GitHub, just so that people could download. Progressing to the next step is you have something on GitHub that people actually care about. You'll know about this. They'll start submitting issues. If you see a project on GitHub that has no issues, it does not mean the guy wrote perfect software. It means probably nobody has cared about it enough to actually find bugs in it. So I ran into this. People started using my code that I had written about in conferences and submitted and published. And all of a sudden they start giving me issues and I need to start fixing this. Then you start to get into automated builds and unit tests. This especially gets into some of the code that I had that became my Incog neural network framework that I worked on a lot, probably 2008 to 2012 or so. That is really challenging. You start having people give you code doing pushes onto GitHub, and this is great. People are contributing stuff, and you put it into your program, and it breaks other stuff. So this is where unit tests and automated builds are critical as you progress through the various levels of maturity. As more and more people cared about Incog, they asked me to put it into Maven and NuGet. This made it easy for them to build it into their own projects, and I started doing this as well. That's as far as I ever really got to. I did have other contributors working on this, but I put the infamous question mark, then the big time, I don't know, where you're a big project like Apache or something like that. I never particularly planned for any of my projects to go to that level. Certainly, the way this would probably happen, at least in my opinion, is you would have more and more and more people starting to contribute to your project, and it would go from there. This is Incog. This is absolutely my biggest project on GitHub. I've worked on this off and on since 2008. You can see there's 3,600 commits. Many of those are by me. 31 different contributors. So that's the number of people that just came in from the general community and gave me code and fixed bugs, various things. currently 63 issues open on this. Many of those are just support questions that I may or may not have time to help people with individually. This is a neural network code base, so there's a lot that people will need to do with pre-processing that they'll sometimes just post as an issue, and it's really just a support request. I don't do a whole lot with NCOG currently. It's a neural network framework. So in the world of 2019, where you've got TensorFlow and Keras and all these guys, I just use the neural network libraries that the big boys put out, but this is a neural network package that I wrote, started on back in 2008 in Java, kind of writing all this stuff from scratch. And that's it. Think about putting code onto GitHub. It can be a great way to get known in the community, and you can post your repositories on Twitter and other places that you answer questions. Stack Overflow is a great place that I've used GitHub in conjunction with. If you found this interesting, please go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.